This is a Failures Only podcast where we are embracing the power of failure by redefining it and turning your worst moments into your sources of strength. We're kicking it with Hector Carvajal, the visionary behind Don Carvajal's Cafe, which he named after his abuelo. Hector's is the powerful immigrant story that starts in Dominican Republic and lands him in the streets of the Bronx. Hector's mission is to bring attention to high-quality Dominican-sourced products. Tune in today to hear how he's shaking up the coffee game, grinding his way onto the shelves of Whole Food. Always remember, be vulnerable, be inspirational, be resilient, and tell your story at failuresonly.com.
This is the Failures Only podcast.
This is the Failures Only podcast.
This is the Failures Only podcast,
where we are embracing the power of failure
by redefining it
and turning your worst moments
into your sources of strength.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take it. If you just don't do it, you're never gonna find out.
Get ready for the Centurion.
Welcome to the Failures Only podcast. Failure is a part of the human condition, and we all belong to this club that we never really knew that we were a part of. The goal of this podcast is to redefine failure. Today's theme is failure in entrepreneurship. I'm here with my co-host, Carlos Martinez.
Yes, sir.
I'm here with my co-host, Jamal Romero.
What's
and
going
we got
on?
the special guest in the house, Hector Carvajal.
We here.
Let's go.
We here.
We outside, but we indoors.
We outside, but we indoors with the green background and all that stuff. Carlos, why don't we lead us off into this amazing conversation?
Yes, sir. Hector, man.
Yep.
End of the hour. Born in DR, grew up in the Bronx.
Yes, sir.
Founder, CEO, Don Carvajal Cafe. Started in your mom's apartment actually as a class project.
Yeah.
Amazing story. Featured on CNN, NBC, Telemundo, NBC, New York One, a whole bunch of other ones that you mentioned,
Yep.
right? You pretty much all over the map. Don's Table podcast, right? On and popping since last August.
Love that.
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And first Dominican coffee company selling coffee in Whole Foods.
Yep.
That's major.
And
Congratulations.
big time.
Congratulations.
Shout out.
Thank
Let's
you,
get it.
Thank you.
How you doing, man?
We kind of messed up though, because I was going to ask him to bring in some coffee so we could actually sit here.
That would have
because we
been-
all love coffee, but it's all right. Next time.
that would have been the thing.
I got something in there. I'm sipping.
I'm glad you thought of that after the fact.
Yeah, I know.
When my man was in the chair.
That's usually what happens.
That's good.
That's
Fail.
That's part of the failure thing.
It's the thought that counts.
It's the thought. It's the
Hey.
thought. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Louis.
man. So, like we were talking off camera, Hector, one of the biggest reasons why we do this is because I think it's important to talk about failures.
Yep.
And the importance of failures when in business.
Yep.
Right. So one of the first things that I'll ask you is, can you share an experience as you've grown this company from pretty much as a class project from your mom's apartment, now being the first Dominican company distributing out of Whole Foods, man? What are some challenges and failures that you've come across as an entrepreneur along the way?
I mean, it's tough in so many different directions. You know what I mean? Because one is being the first generation to do it. You know what I mean? So I'm a first generation to go to college. So that was weird for me. I ain't really have no support like that on a family level. On the business front, I'm also first generation business owner here. My brother also has some, but we kind of started at the same time. You know what I mean? So we were both learning as we go. It's a lot of firsts, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like in being the first in Whole Foods, like it was always a pattern for me, you know what I mean? Like the college thing, like the business thing. But I mean, for example, a big one is capital. You know what I mean? Like it's a weird thing of like you want to retain equity, but then you also want to, grow and do it on your own.
Yeah.
So you're not really trying to sell shares of your company because you kind of want to keep something for yourself,
Right,
for
of
your
course.
family,
Or you put all
for
this
the
work
culture,
in.
right?
Of course, yeah.
For your next generation that comes and stuff like
course.
that.
Yeah,
of course.
So capital's a big one, you know what I mean? So it's like, how do you raise capital? How do you retain capital? How do you make the proper investments? Like sometimes you put money into something and you think it's gonna work and maybe it doesn't. Like some things work out, some things don't. That's a big one. When things don't work out.
Let's narrow it down a little bit. It's got to come to mind. I mean, it wasn't smooth sailing from the beginning, right? At what point were you thinking, man, I may not be able to do this? What is there something that comes to mind, an event that comes to mind where you're like, you know what, I may not this may not
this-
be
this
going out
may not
tomorrow.
be the route.
This may not exist. Yeah.
Sitting in mom's apartment looking at the ceiling whoa.
Like maybe I should sell some water instead.
You know that,
like something like that, right?
That mom spaghetti moment.
Yeah.
I mean,
Knees is weak.
I mean, it's always been tough, but I've just never been the type of person to give up. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I'm always like, nah, we're gonna figure it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I never really had moments like that. But one thing I could reference that I don't think I've ever really spoken about like that. We had a Eater article that came out one time that spoke about it.
Right, I read that.
But we were gonna do a coffee shop in the Peninsula Project in the Bronx. It used to be Spofford.
Yeah,
You remember
of course.
Spofford? It was like a juvenile detention center. It was
I remember
horrible.
Spofford very well.
Okay.
And then they tore it down and they built something on top of that. So I was like, this is a dope project. They approached me. It was like some development. And then we were trying to build a roasting room coffee shop there. And it was like a huge project, cost a lot of money. I did a Kickstarter campaign. We raised like $60,000.
Of course.
Okay.
That was a thing. I had mad momentum, had a lot of press behind it. But then the building never got a TCO, which is a temporary certificate of occupancy.
occupancy.
And that means that you cannot even
Can't do
build.
anything.
So my thing was, I'm not going to sign that lease because I'm not going to bind myself legally. You guys don't know about that. I'm not going to bind myself legally until you guys have a TCO because I cannot even operate out of there. So I'm going to be bound to
point?
something that I can't. Right. So then that took so long and I had this money just sitting there where I was just like, yeah, I have to pivot. Like I have to pivot. So to me, it literally took almost 2 years for them to get that. And by the time it came around, I was just like, yeah, like I can't be holding on. I need to do something. So I feel like that was a failure. Because
What was that? If you don't mind me asking, what was that pivot?
The pivot was like I need to do something else. So like for example, I used to sell to a lot of supermarkets myself. Like sales.
Like you selling out of the
One man
trunk.
shop.
Like you selling mixtapes out of the trunk.
The coffee hustle.
You need that.
Coffee hustle.
I will go
got
stock
you.
it. I will go invoice you. I'll chase you
love
for the
that.
money.
I
It
love
was
that.
mad annoying.
Right. But it's the grind.
It's the grind. It's the grind. It's things, you know, and then
you
now
believe in it, you rocking with it.
Yeah, like now I don't mind working with a distribution company because it takes all that work out.
Of course.
You know what I mean? So
but you know the work.
But before I
and
wouldn't
they can't get you.
Yeah, before I wouldn't be like, nah, you ain't taking 20% of my money.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But that was one of them, and that was a big one. So a pivot was like, okay, I'm working with these small local mom and pop supermarkets and stores, and it was cool and it was great, but that's not gonna get me there. And the coffee shop in Hunts Point didn't end up working out and things like that. I always did farmers markets in Westchester and things like that. So now, like years later, now we're actually building the first coffee shop as we speak right now. In Westchester.
So that was that.
That's
So
big.
that shop that you were looking to get into that never went to fruition.
Yeah.
That would have been your man. I got a chance now to get out of this mom and pop shop. This you were almost about to reach your dream, and then all of a sudden, because of this TCO, was taken away from you.
Yeah, and honestly,
And that's why
I
you would
think
consider
that
that a failure.
if I would have actually signed it and opened it, I would have probably failed. 'Cause it would have cost so much money.
Wow.
Now that I look back, I'm like,
Your overhead.
my overhead would have been crazy. Hunts Point, I love the Bronx, but it's not there financially. Look at
Yeah.
Mott Haven;
Yeah.
they're putting up a bunch of buildings everywhere. They're all empty.
Right.
Yep.
You know what I mean? People is not paying $4,000 or $5,000 a month.
Yeah, right.
Not in Mott Haven, not yet.
This is
And,
pre-COVID too? Pre-COVID or post-COVID?
well, it was post-COVID, but COVID also taught me that I don't want a coffee shop. I never wanted one. Now we're opening one.
Yeah.
But I was like, if another pandemic happens, what is it gonna do?
Well, you're
know what I
kind
mean?
of like stuck with this one spot.
Right.
Right. So it's like,
Yeah, landlords don't care.
nah, exactly.
You sign that.
No,
lease.
you
Yeah,
signed that
man.
lease. You got
Right,
black
right.
When
Law is
you
black
got-
and white, baby.
But when you got to that moment where you were like, I got to make the pivot,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, how did you? Because I've been in that situation a few times with a couple of businesses where it's like, I got to leave this behind. I got to go into a new territory. I got to leave that one behind and I go to a third territory. And even with this podcast, it's a brand new thing for all of us. And we were just talking about this earlier today where we're like, we don't know where this is going to go. It may fail and be on nothing. And fuck it, if it fails, it fails.
Yep.
But at the same time, we may be doing book deals. We may be having Google calling us up to come in and work with them.
Yeah.
So when you got to that moment of like, I got to make the pivot, like, how did you just say, fuck it, I'm going to make the decision?
Yep.
Like, what was the thought process? Because a lot of people have been in that point and they don't know how to make the decision sometimes.
I feel like I was my friend Steph, who designs our stuff, says friendo y comiendo, like just cooking and eating, you sampling as you go. For me,
Sampling as you go in English for those that don't speak.
sampling as you go. You eating while you cooking, basically.
Yeah, hablando mierda.
Right. So for me, it was just figuring it out as I went. Like now I look back, it's like, oh, I made that move. That was a bad move. That was a good move. That was a bad move. That was a great move. So now I can look back, you know what I mean, and reflect on it. But me, working with so many local supermarkets, a lot of them would tie up my cash flow because you would give them net 15, net 30, they'll pay you net 60. Now you're holding up my cash flow. So then I realized, okay, maybe I want to work with big brands like Whole Foods because they're not gonna miss a payment.
Right.
They don't play that. You put in the contract, oh, if you're late on this, you got to pay me a certain percentage interest on that. They ain't playing that.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just little things you learn as you go.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't take the small players seriously. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was pivoting in ways like, okay, I want to do distribution. I want to scale Dominican coffee. Like, it's cool being small, but I don't want to be a small business forever. I don't. I actually want to be a whole corporation. I want to be a holdings company one day. That's where I'm at. So then I started thinking bigger. Okay, what's reachable? How can I get that? So then I put a target on the wall. Like, I literally had like a board and I would write things. I'm like, Whole Foods, I'm gunning for you. You know what I mean? And follow them on LinkedIn, looked at their website. How do I speak to these people?
Who do I speak to?
Who do I speak to? How do I get in front of them?
Yeah.
And then I found out there's like trade shows, and there's some in Philly, some in Cali. They're all over the place. Some at the Javits Center.
Right.
So then I figured out one of them. It's called Expo East, which doesn't exist anymore. I think last year was the last year. And I got to get in front of Whole Foods. So I emailed them. I figured out how to get to submit a request. I submitted it. I went, presented. They gave you 10 minutes. At 8, they stopped me. They said, you got it. I said, great.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So it was making moves like I need consistent residual money. I noticed in COVID, supermarkets are COVID proof. Supermarkets are anything proof.
Yeah.
You need that to survive. Ain't nobody got a grocery out in their crib. You need a supermarket.
Kind of like lawyers, right?
Right.
Like you need them in good and bad.
Exactly. E-commerce.
Yeah.
E-commerce blew up. Then I started pivoting like, oh, wait, COVID made people at home buy espresso machines that cost $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 espresso machines for their crib because their local coffee shop closed. They were scared to go outside their crib. Everybody became an expert at home. That's great. Now I need to be the coffee at your crib. So how do I do that? Let's do more content creation. Let's try to get our e-commerce up. Then we got on Amazon, which is new to us. We started in October, but I was like, how do we increase our e-commerce blueprint? So like our website, Amazon, we're on Fresh Direct, which goes to your crib.
Of course.
Now we're doing the Whole Foods. So it's like, how do I diversify?
From DR to your house.
You feel me? Farm to cup, baby. So my main thing was like, how do I diversify? And that's how I got to all these little pockets.
During that transition and during that pivoting.
Yeah.
I mean, because you didn't just get in front of Whole Foods right away. So how many no's did you have to go through? How many wrong websites did you go to? How many...
a whole lot, bro.
How many like emails, right?
Yeah.
Where just
nobody
responded.
A whole lot, bro. It's crazy. And it's just one of those, like, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. If you just don't do it, you're never gonna find out. You know what I mean? It's like dating. If you don't,
you only have
a lot of people won't get married if they don't go on that first date. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
you just gotta take the leap.
You gotta take the leap.
You can't be scared to get no. You know what I mean? Like the more no's you get, the better it is. Actually, you might better your pitch.
So that was your mindset. Your mindset was, I keep getting no's. I keep getting no's.
Yeah, like,
the
you
more
know,
no's, the better.
Yeah,
that was your attitude towards it.
Yeah, like, I knew I had a good idea. You know what I mean? I always say this as a disclaimer to people. Like, there are such things as bad ideas. Like, you might have a bad idea that's meant to fail. Like, that's normal.
Okay.
But you need to go through that, and then you might come out with another one that's actually good. But since the day that I started, I was like, there's no way. This is a thing. Like, I'm Dominican. I'm from the Campo. Like, I grew up around agriculture. Like, my grandfather's on the logo.
Shout out to El Campo.
You feel me? El Campo. So
shout out to your grandfather.
You know what
on
I
top
mean?
of that, man.
The
That's
boss.
dope. That must be an amazing feeling, bro, to have his name as the
fire. Bro, my mom saw his face on a bag at a supermarket. One day, she was like, wait a minute. And then my aunt saw it. She called me like, is that? I'm like, yeah, that's your father.
Wow.
It was cool. It was cool.
I got a cousin that she's in the food industry, and she's selling a lot of my grandmother's recipes, right? Like, literally, because she was a sous chef. So she's doing a little bit of pivot herself, where we were able to speak to some pretty big supermarkets in New York. They want to buy her flan. So she wants to change the name of the company to my grandmother's name, Jovita. That's going to be the flan.
That's
like,
where it's at.
That's legacy. That's legacy, bro. Yeah.
So yeah, bro. I just always knew I had a good idea. You know what I mean? You got to really believe in what you're doing. I mean, everybody who achieves something big, you got to believe in yourself, because nobody else is going to believe in you. You know what I mean? We all sound crazy in the beginning. It's just like, what do you mean you want to launch a podcast? You're going to be another one of those like people who put a little iPhone.
We heard a lot of that. We heard a lot of that already. Like,
people didn't get it.
You know what happened to me? Like, I was having dinner one time at this restaurant in Riverdale, and somebody was like, "I saw you were a guest on that podcast. It looks so good." I'm like, "Yeah, that's my podcast.
That's my podcast. That's mine.
Yeah,
Exactly.
my podcast. No,
Thanks, I
like,
appreciate
but
it.
the guy in front of you was such a big person. I'm like, yeah, that's my guest.
my podcast. Right, it's my guest. Yeah. I wasn't on his. He was on my
He was
show.
on my show. Don't get it twisted. Yeah,
I like that. I like that.
So now that you've essentially come such a long way from those comforts, like those feelings of discomfort initially, right? To where you are now, literally distributing through Whole Foods, right? And look at people saying no and no and no all the time. How does it feel now? How do you perceive failure at this point?
You know, it's very interesting. Do you guys curse on this podcast?
All the time, baby.
Bro, don't give a fuck. Don't worry about it. Do what you gotta do, bro.
I try to limit it, but
what
it's
you gotta
like
do.
it's either you fuck with me or you don't.
Yeah.
Like it's just black and white now. It's just
That's
like
it.
here's the product, here's the price.
Yeah, yeah.
Either you fuck with me or you don't.
Or you don't.
Right.
Like we just started fucking supplying the Nike office, their headquarters in New York City.
Oh,
Nice.
dope.
And
Shout out to
Nike.
Shout out to Nike.
Shout out to Nike.
You
Don't
know
sue
what I
us.
mean? Checks over
Dominican
stripes,
coffee
you know?
in Nike offices.
That's it.
Dominican coffee in Nike offices.
Bro, it's dope, man. I
go.
found out there's
Wow.
it's crazy.
fucking
You know what I
dope.
mean?
Okay.
We all wearing Nikes right now. So so working with them was like they invited me to a dinner there that they had done, and then I connected with the person who manages the food program, the food and beverage program, and then like we just did it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like literally on some Nike shit. We just did it. And then it just happened. And a lot of people that I work with, same thing with Whole Foods, same thing with Nike, same thing with Fresh Direct. It was just like we rock with you. We do a tasting. We want to see the product. What's the price? Like if you want to fuck with me, it's easy to fuck with me. You know what I mean? Sometimes people hit me up like, oh, I want to have your coffee. Let's do a tasting. Let's do this. Let's do that. Y mil preguntas homie. I've done this too many times. If you want to fuck with me, you can fuck with me very easily. Well, you know what I mean? As a product, as a brand, if you want me on the podcast, shoot me an email, let's do it. Like, it's really not that hard. People make it super bureaucratic. Like, this is not a corporation, bro. You want to do something, let's just get it done.
Let's do it.
We from the hood, like, we just, vamos a darle, que lo que hay que hacer. Like, let's just make it happen.
I think a lot of it too, like, I've learned as just like growing my businesses now, it's to the point where it's like, if I feel like I'm selling you, then meeting's over. I don't need to be like, it ain't gonna happen.
If you don't see it,
and
I
it's
don't know
like,
how to make you.
And I learned a lot of that recently, where it's basically that like I was pushing so hard to have like meetings with multiple people that I noticed that I was pushing too hard. Yeah. No responses, blah, blah, blah. So then it got to the point, it's like, okay, I'll send you one question. Hey, let's link up, do this. Yeah, sure, let's do it. I send you a second one to give you a reminder. You don't respond, it doesn't happen, I'm not going back again. You know, like that's it. Because it's just, like you said, either fuck with me or you don't. Like it's one way or the other. You know?
And that's okay too, right? Because you are gonna run into that. Yeah. Right. And I think that someone as an entrepreneur maybe tend to take a little bit emotional, right? Because they feel so tied to their product or their idea or their business that, you know, they take it personal. Like, oh man, they're not responding to me. Maybe they start doubting themselves. Right.
And I just want to I think you said what I've noticed throughout this, and we've had other guests on the show, and they talk about their failures and what they went through and their adversities. But what I'm hearing from you is you never doubted yourself. You never doubted the product you had. No. You never. It's almost like failure was not.
It was not
an option. It wasn't in the vocabulary. It was like, this is gonna happen.
Grinding.
It's no matter what. I'm gonna find a way to get it. So you had like tunnel vision. Yeah. Like this is it.
Yep.
And that's great because, I found that at like 38. You know what I'm saying? And like you 10 years younger, you're like 13 years younger, and like you got it. And don't ever let up on that shit, man. Because I always kind of give like advice where it's whatever doesn't work, just cut it off. What does work, triple down. And that's business. And that really is, I think it's one of the more simple ways to do business, but I think it's the more successful ways to do business. Just keep it rocking. Right. Keep it rocking.
Yeah. So, now having gone through Whole Foods, right? Being that target on the board, right? What's next?
What's next? Yeah.
Right.
I mean, the coffee shop.
What's the target now?
We're literally building it as we speak. This guy's right now at the shop building.
Wait, where's it at again?
In Westchester, Irvington, New York.
Okay.
It's like 30 minutes. No, not even 30 minutes from the city. About 15 minutes from Yonkers, more or less 10 minutes from Yonkers.
When is any plans to like? Is it going to open
May 2024? That's the goal. We've been working on that since November. Yes.
Okay. So how does How does that feel? Because you never had an actual like location.
brick and mortar.
So what's the like? How's it been different in terms of your mindset? In terms of saying like, well, I'm distributing to everybody, but now they're kind of coming to me, so it's a little bit different. Like, and now you have a brick and mortar, which is a whole new animal,
whole different ballgame.
right? That like because now you got to deal with people even more. You got to deal with right. How's that transition been for you?
Yeah, it's a good one. You know what it is? Like, it's so many ways I could tackle that question because one, I've had so much exposure, bro. Like, I've been viral like many times. I've been on a lot of different news channels. NBC has had my face at their airport, like, and people sending me videos of me at the airport. Like, I've had that.
So you were like Vanessa Gibson like a couple of months ago.
Yeah. I got an award for Dominican Heritage Month.
Dominican Heritage Month.
Amazing.
Thank you. That was my first. What do you call those?
The proclamation.
Proclamation. Yeah. I never had one of those. I was like, oh, better.
You got to put that in the coffee shop, bro. The minute they walk in, they got to see that.
Where I got that tucked away in my crib, like it's, you know what I mean? Like, yo, it's wrapped in a towel. You know what I mean? All that. I'm not even putting it on the wall.
Exactly.
So
that like that transition.
Yeah, it's so many ways I could go about it. So I've had so much exposure, bro, and I have friends like the homie from Bark Barbecue and stuff like that. Like, bro, if you go on the weekend, like his lines be crazy. I have a lot of homies that have had a lot of exposure. Yeah. And some of them have retail spaces, some of them don't. Yeah. And for me, it's like I've always been limited in how I can monetize and capitalize on attention. You know what I mean? And when I went viral, it's like, yeah, my online store is booming. But then a lot of people are just curious. They are, what do you call them? Forgot the name of that.
Like they just want to send a DM and just talk, or
no, they buy it one time. Impulsive. A lot of impulsive buyers. You know what I mean? Being viral, it's like a lot of companies are viral, and then once the viralness goes away,
it's kind of everything else.
Right.
Kind
it's like
flashing like dips.
Yeah, so it's like
flash in the pan.
So it's like it goes up. You're down here, and then it goes up, and then it flans out. But now you're at a new level. But it's not what it was.
It's not the same.
So I realized I've been on a lot of podcasts.
Right.
I stopped going on podcasts for a while because I was only doing mine.
Right.
And then I stopped doing features, and I was like, okay, if I get attention, I needed direct traffic, like a traffic agent in Midtown. It's mad traffic. I need
right.
So then I noticed, okay, how do I direct this traffic so we can monetize that attention? Because everything's monetizing attention.
Of course.
That's what Times Square is. It's just a bunch of ads. I don't know, people are psyched about Times Square. It's just ads.
Of course.
So then the coffee shop,
what's your brand?
my e-commerce, right? And everything that I do is like, okay, I get all this attention. How can I direct that? So the coffee shop is a place for me to show you how I approach coffee, how I brew it, how I embrace it. We put canela and we'll brew a greca for you. We'll also make you a really nice espresso and a really expensive espresso machine that's made in Italy. You know what I mean? So it's
awesome.
It's things like that. And how do I show you the culture? How do you come into a space and experience the brand outside of Instagram? How do you experience the brand outside of my website? How do you experience the brand outside of Whole Foods, outside of Fresh Direct, outside of Amazon? It's a real thing.
Right.
Post-COVID, I think 4 years later, we're like, okay, we're back to reality now.
Yeah.
So I wanted to give people like a flagship experience where you walk in.
It's awesome.
I love that.
And kind of walk in and you get that. Like, it's like going to a Ferrari dealership. It's not on your phone no more. It's like, wow, I could touch it.
Like,
you know what I mean?
It's like you walk in, it's like, I smell the Greco.
Yeah.
The brewing.
So now
I hear the beans.
Now you could tap into your senses, and get a real experience. So that was one of them. Is like, how do I direct attention? Making a flagship experience where you could come in and really experience what we want you to.
Experience the brand.
Yeah,
really experience the brand.
So that's one thing about it. You know what I mean? I could give you the real brand experience. Yeah. And I think it's the next step for us. It's also great because like the way I do business, like for right now, it's like spring break.
Yeah.
It's spring break. You know what I mean? Guess what? I have a lot of clients. Like Nike, I have private schools.
Right.
Everybody's on break. So this week, our revenues are low. You know what I mean? So it's interesting like that. Yeah. So the reason why I approach so many different streams is because I want to diversify. Right. You know what I mean? When you have a coffee shop, you have everyday cash flow.
Would you say that's one of the things that you've learned throughout the entire process about diversifying? Because
bro.
Right.
That's what COVID taught me. Because I was just like, yo, a lot of people went ham on coffee shops, they never went ham on e-commerce. I started on e-commerce, so I was type of aight during COVID. Actually,
Yeah. Right.
Financially, as a business, we did aight during COVID.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Course.
Like COVID excelled my growth because a lot of people were just home, and I was
Online.
making content. I was on TV,
And people need
were,
coffee.
They were
And
buying
people need good coffee.
right? And they were buying coffee
Buying
for their
coffee,
crib.
Yeah. And they were like willing. Well, that's an important part there too, because it's like they were looking for good brewed coffee. And you know what, with the flagship, right? And I'm going to tie it in with this, because with the flagship part that you were just mentioning earlier, maybe the coffee they were experiencing before wasn't that good, right? And then now they get to go into your store and they're like, oh, this is what real good Dominican coffee tastes like. Now I want to get this to my house, right? Because I think that like
we gave it educate you too,
right? Exactly. Like I'm a coffee addict, right? Like I mean, I spend tons. I don't know how much, hundreds of dollars a year on coffee, right? But the thing is that like I didn't know about good coffee until I was in Italy. The first time I actually had like real espresso and I really got stuck on coffee, I was in Italy, in the middle of like Rome somewhere with my wife, and we're sitting there, and she's like, you normally drink like milk with coffee, right? Like that's what you normally drink. She's like, if we're anywhere in the world, we're in Italy right now, you need to have an espresso. I have not gone back since. So that's what I'm saying. With your flagship store, you can get a lot of these people walking in there, and especially in the Westchester area, right? And they come in and they're like, this is what Dominican coffee tastes like? Oh my God. And they're hooked for life.
And that's the thing. Like my thing is, you don't know it's good until you've had exposure to it.
Exactly.
Right? So that's a reason why we're gonna do that experience. You know what I mean? Like that's the whole thing about Dominican coffee. Is like, oh, I've never had it. I don't know. It's like, well, if you've never had it, you can't even judge it. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where I try to expose people to it. I think in the Dominican Republic we have so many great products. It's just coffee right now, but I also want to dive into other things like chocolate and sugar, cacao, you know what I mean, and honey. Like I just think we have so many good products in DR. Coffee is just one of them. So my thing is like, how do I expose you? How do I educate you on it? And then you might rock with it after that.
Every time you keep thinking about the experience, right? The first thing that keeps popping into my head is the Krispy Kreme experience, right? Where you're seeing the donut
being done.
right? The donut
I was
coming
like,
through with the
Krispy Kreme,
glaze.
what
Have
you
you ever
talking
seen that?
about?
I mean, that's
I know
they make it.
Yeah, they make it.
Right.
I saw that for the first time. I think here at the Times Square one.
Yeah, right.
It's like the behind the scenes.
Right,
You know,
exactly.
if you
see it
smell
being
it, it's
made
a
and you
sensory
smell it and then they give it
experience.
to you. That was the whole concept behind it.
And at the store, are you gonna just focus on Dominican products like you said, sugar and la canela and all that other stuff?
Well,
too?
we'll give you a Dominican experience. Like, you know, if you have a Dominican coffee, like that'll be a menu item. It'll be like canela and nutmeg. Right. And then if you want to add sugar, you could. But it's like we could give you a black coffee. We could give you like what my mom would make. You know what I mean? And things like that. Give you that difference and the diversity, so you can see what you want to rock out with. Some people, like we were at the Javits Center like a month ago, and I was doing canela and nutmeg in the mocha pot, and
that's how
other people from other races were pretty excited. Like, wow, cinnamon.
Right,
you know?
what is this? Yeah.
Nutmeg.
I never would have thought.
Like, what is this?
Genius.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Genius.
I grew up with this every day.
I grew up with
Right.
this.
It's like, I just had two of them. What are you talking about? Like this morning. Like,
what do you? Yeah, right. My mom put me onto this. I guess she's the genius, and then who put her on?
on there.
I got to honor Dominican Republic that the first time she actually showed me what a nut. I'm a kid from the Bronx from the projects, man. I don't know what the nutmeg is. She actually pulled out like the nutmeg itself,
and then she
grinded it with a little tiny grinder, and she grinded it on top of the coffee. Yo, I don't know what I was missing out of my life for like 30 years.
I saw that, I was like, what kind of level of crack is
right.
Sprinkling
what
it and you stuffing it in
thing?
there. Yeah, it was interesting. Interesting. Yeah, opening the shop in Irvington too, it ties into everything too, because when I initially started the brand, I was in college at the University of Rochester. I popped it off there. Then I came down to my mom's crib after that semester. And I started selling my coffee at the Rochester Public Market, which I think has been around for like 100 plus years, something like that. That's what put me on, because like I was selling out coffee bags at the market. And I was like, oh, farmer's market is a channel. Right. It's a place. It's a place where I could distribute this product. So then when I came down to New York City, I started looking at farmers markets. And then I found that in the Grow NYC ones that you see in like 14th Street, you can't really be in that because coffee's not grown in New York State, whatever. Right. It's super weird politics.
Right. Whatever.
So then I ended up finding other ways because we don't give up. So then I found farmers markets in Westchester, like the Hastings one, the Irvington one, and stuff like that. Then I started popping up over there. That's how I met Seth Godin at the farmers market, because he lives in Hastings.
Right. I got you.
So then I started seeing him every Saturday, whatever. Started building relationships with a lot of people of high profile in that area. And then I've been doing the Irvington Farmers Market for 4+ years. Like coming up on December, it'll be the 5th year. I've been doing that farmers market
still doing
every
it.
Sunday. Yeah, we still doing it. Farmers markets will probably be a part of the brand for a while because it builds deep and intense connections for the
Right,
brand.
right.
It's one-on-one,
It's
and I
important.
know you, and it's just a thing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Laying
Like a
down
name
roots
to
in
the
the
face.
Yeah,
community.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's just been like
Yeah.
that. So
Just
one day
imagine-
I'm driving down Main Street on Irvington, and I'm actually looking for a space because I just need
Right.
to operate.
Imagine seeing Jeff Bezos at a farmer's market selling
Right,
Amazon.
crazy, crazy,
Yeah,
crazy. So then,
Is he wearing his like Miami like new shirt? You know, it's like the multicolored shirt with Miami.
Oh yeah.
Like
Oh,
Jeff
no.
Bezos, like how's he gonna dress? Anyway, forget about it.
I
Y'all
gotta
missed the
look
joke.
that up. I
Forget
gotta
about it. Failed joke.
Sorry.
Next.
Worry about
Right.
it.
So then
Miami
I
Jeff,
saw
Miami
that
Jeff. That's
little
what you call
for
it.
rent sign, and then I went to look at the space, spoke with the realtor and all of that, and then I was like, oh, this is it right here. Then I started looking more into the town, bro, and I'm like, oh, like Madam C.J. Walker used to live in Irvington, New York. I'm like, a lot of people don't know who
Oh,
that
I
is. That's
got
the first
I
woman,
got you.
black or white, to
Yep.
make $1 million in the United States. I
That,
don't know
you
if
seen
in
the
world.
Netflix show on her?
Huh?
Netflix did a show on her.
Yeah, I
Crazy
saw
dope.
I saw a really old documentary on YouTube
Yeah.
that her actual employees were on it.
Wow.
From the CJ Walker company. I was like, yo, that's crazy.
Wow.
It's like a different time, bro.
Right.
A different time. So her crib is still there. It's actually like a museum now.
Yeah.
The Tiffany and Co. company, like the family who owned it used to live there. Their house is up for sale right now, $9 million. Like I could walk there from the shop. So like the people who we have access to is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of mentorship from my customers who are executives at different companies and things like that.
Yeah.
So, I found my roots up there. I really wanted to do it in the Bronx, but I think the Bronx has a long way to go in terms of the coffee scene.
Yeah.
I don't want to contribute to gentrification.
Yeah.
Which I think I will add value. That was kind of what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
I was trying to open up a roasting room where we could bring in people from the community, teach them skills like roasting, like being a barista, growing up in the coffee chain. Maybe they'll, find the spark and open up their own company.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I wanted to add that value to the community. But I don't think it was there with the development, with the community, with the politics of it. I don't really know what it was, but it didn't work out for me. So
Yeah.
I ended up pivoting and I ended up in Rochester. I mean, in Irvington.
Yeah. Well, I think though, even with that though, you're still influencing a lot of people.
Oh,
in
no,
that,
big time,
because
big
people
time.
come. From where we come from, like I would imagine. Because we're attorneys, right? And in the legal industry, less than 5% of attorneys are Latinos.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So a lot of the times we walk into rooms and like
You're the
we
only
don't
one.
see anybody that looks like us.
Right.
I would imagine it's something similar in the coffee world where you go to
Yeah.
a lot of these places and it's like, yeah, where's everybody else that looks like me? Like
in
if
terms
they're
of
not
the
there.
equity part, like there's people who work the industry that look like me and you, but they don't
Yeah.
own anything in it. You know what I mean? So
Gotcha.
typically the people who work in the industry and own something is like the farmers, and the farmers get the least amount of money in the whole supply chain.
Gotcha.
They're the one we wouldn't have the commodity without them. They're the ones who make the least amount of money in the
Yeah.
whole supply chain.
Gotcha.
People who make the most money are at the coffee shop level, at the roasting level, which is the ending of the supply chain.
The end of the chain. Okay.
And then there's a lot of in between people, like the freight companies and the boats,
Yeah.
and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But
Logistics.
the logistics is crazy.
So throughout that journey, how do you feel that today has your relationship changed with failure? Right? Like do you see it as, I don't know, part of the journey? Do you see it as like, do you still get this bump in the road and like, do you kind of just keep it moving or does it affect you? Right? Like, do the people around you, like, do you speak to them maybe about it? Like, how do you live with failure now? Right? Because
Yeah, it's interesting, bro. I mean, I don't mind it.
Yeah.
Like people always ask me, like, would you change anything? I wouldn't change a thing. I love everything that I've been through as
Yeah.
a person, as a business owner, and all of that.
Yeah.
Because it taught me something at the end of the day, and then I took that and then I proceeded with that experience. You know what I mean?
got you.
So I don't mind anything. I think it just builds your resume. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like as a human being, not on paper.
Right.
But it adds more to the experience. I kind of, in the moment, you don't really enjoy failure. You know what I mean? But if you ever ultimately sit back and analyze it, you shouldn't make the same mistake again.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I look at it. Like, okay, how do I not get there again? Okay, where do I go left or right, up, down from this? So I've enjoyed failure post the radiation of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because,
Post radiation
yeah,
failure.
when you're still dealing with it, you're like, I kind of don't like
Right.
this.
Well, you get like that feeling in your stomach of like you're about to throw up.
Yeah,
you know, like,
or
you get
you're
that-
just not rocking with it.
Yeah,
You know what
yeah.
I mean? So I've enjoyed failure. I think it has taught me a lot. You know, I always look at how do I not repeat this again, and then how do I grow from this. That's pretty much been the way I look at it. it has only given me positive things to look at. You know what I mean? Yeah, sometimes you walk out with that. Sometimes you walk out with a failed business part or a channel, or maybe employees don't work out, or growth doesn't happen how you want it to. Like recently, a bunch of companies have laid off and let go of a lot of people because they got fooled by the pandemic growth. And the pandemic growth was going like this, and then it said, whoop,
just dropped.
So Facebook, Google, a lot of huge high-tech companies and coffee companies have let go of a lot of people. That's a way to deal with failure. Okay, how do you not do that again?
How do we not get that to that point?
Because you're playing with people's lives.
Right.
So, just learning and growing, I think, is how I deal with it. I don't really like get sad about it. You know what I mean? I'm always like, all right, how do we get out of this? How do we fix this? Let's just make it happen. I'm very like, let's just do it. You know,
on to the next one. Keep it moving.
Like for example, for the coffee shop, like we need to figure out something. It's a part. We got to drill the counter. The shop is like by JFK. I live in the Bronx. I only go over there if I'm going to on a flight. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't drive over there to Ozone Park. You know what I mean? Doing all that.
Yeah.
No.
We don't go across bridges.
No matter right. No matter what time of the day, you're gonna hit some crazy traffic. So it's like, all right, cool. We gotta go over there. We gotta pick that up. Bet, like, you know what I mean? I'm always making moves. Like, what we gotta do. My thing is at this level of growth, sometimes with failures and successes, I've always been used to being like the player, like a one man like basketball team, like a one man baseball team. Like I play all positions, I make all the moves. So when it's tag you're it and I'm doing what I got to do, I get it done. Like here you go, your turn.
Right.
So now I'm at a level where it's like, oh, now I gotta wait for you. Oh, okay. Now I gotta sit here patiently.
So let me ask you about that. Let me ask you about that real quick, right? Because I think as an entrepreneur, one thing that you always learn is you can't do it all yourself.
Yeah, no,
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Some of the smartest people in the world that's literally built the biggest companies in the world will tell you. Even that Warren Buffett, I think he said, I surround myself with some of the smartest people in the world, even people that are smarter than me. Would you say that's one of the things that you learned as an entrepreneur, that you can't do it all? Even though we want to, right? As the owner.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I believe in the same thing too. Like people always like, oh, I always try to instill in my team members, people who work for me and my company, like, you're actually smarter than me. You know what I mean? Like sometimes people encounter an issue and they look at me for a solution, and it's like, come up. This is the way I do it. I forgot who I learned this from, but come up with 3 solutions. Try to see if you can fix it. If you really can't fix it, then you come to me, because I hired you to take shit off my plate. If you're bringing more shit to me, then I might as well let you go. I already have too many problems. Like you should be self-reliant, self-sufficient to just get it done.
You're supposed to be a sieve for me.
Like Obama came out. They asked President Obama, I think it was about a year ago. They were like, "What's some like advice?" It was some interview. I don't remember what it was. What's some advice you would give to like the younger generation? And he didn't say, he didn't curse, but he was just like, basically like, get shit done. Like just learn how to get shit done at an early age in your career, because people are always going to look to you for those answers, but you're going to continuously have them. So when you go up the chain, like your bosses are going to know, I can just leave this on his lap or her lap and she can handle it. I don't have to worry about it, you know? And I think it's super important too, because that's how you build like the brain power, like those analytical skills, as to, instead of saying like, well, I got this problem in front of me, I don't know what to do about it, let me just go ask Hector. When it's like, but I didn't hire you for that to come to me. I hired you to figure the problem out and maybe bring me, like you said, 2 or 3 solutions, and I'll work them out, you know, but I need you to come to me with that. So super important.
My favorite word is initiative. I just think not enough people take initiative nowadays. For some reason, common sense is not as common as we want it to be. For some reason. Those are just observations.
If there's, now that we're close to wrapping up the episode here, there's one, you're talking to a family member, you're talking to a brother, a cousin, a sister. There's one thing you would share with them, someone that's trying to start their own company. What would that one thing be?
I mean, just do it, bro. Like it'll never be the perfect time. One thing that I always tell people that I highlight when I'm giving them advice is, this is advice from a 20-something-year-old who has no kids, no wife, no family. My family, like, it's not my immediate family. Like, I don't have kids. I don't have a wife. My mom, my brother, my nephew, my uncle, everybody's good. I'm over here. So when I make decisions, I only think about me. I take all the risk in the world because I can't do that. I don't care about nothing. I've maxed out credit cards for the longest, but that's the flip. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not scared to do that. I figured it out every time, paid it off, You know what I mean? So when I give people advice, it's like, this is how I play. I play aggressive. Like when I was 22, I made a decision. I said, yo, in my 20s, I'm going to risk it all. I don't care. I'll bounce back at 30. I got time. I don't have kids. I don't have a wife. I don't have a family. I'm good.
Yeah.
So when I tell people that's my disclaimer.
Right.
Like, yo, like I take aggressive risk.
Right.
Like I'm like that. And that's where I'm at in life. I can't do that. And then I go from there. So then I always tell people, just do it. Like, just you gotta take the leap at some point. If you wait, next year, next month, you're just never gonna do it. And then I've had people later in life tell me, like, I'm glad you started early. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because you're gonna get to a point where now you got a wife. Damn, now you got a few kids. Now you need that security for that mortgage, for that school. You know what I mean? For that car you take your kids to school in. You're like, the more you wait, the harder it gets.
The risk
time doesn't stop. Money comes and goes, but
would you
time
tell a
doesn't
lot of
stop.
people your generation that? Like, if you're in your, like, do you think that's been good for you? Would you say, like, talking to the cousin that's 20 something, like around, or younger, talking to the 15, 16-year-old cousin, would you give him that advice and be like, yo, in your 20s, just rock out, just do it?
I mean, I learned that from Bill Gates. I think it was. He was
He's
like
a good person to learn.
He's like, my 20s. At my 20s, I worked every single weekend. In my 20s, I was going ham. I was not partying. I was not like I was working.
Working.
My 20s, I dedicating it to build this. And when I saw what he built, I was like, okay. It's like, I got it.
This is the point this is the marker that I'm going to go
Right.
off
I'm like,
of,
okay, it makes sense. You know, you said that, you did it. I think I could do it too. You know what I mean? So it's watching people like him, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, you know what I mean? Like, what do they do in their 20s? You know what I mean? The 20s are pivotal. It's low risk. You know what I mean? You got all the energy in the world. When I'm 40, I'm not going to have the same energy. You know what I mean? Like, I'm already starting.
now.
Yeah.
As these two dudes, they owe you
Carlos just turned 55 last month.
They old as hell.
So like my
none of the
thing
gray
is,
hairs fool you, kid, but
I'm already starting to wind down, bro. Like I don't like going out late. I wake up early. I'm in the coffee business, not the nightclub business. It's like I have to be up 4, 5, 6 in the morning, clockwork every day.
Of course.
So I don't really enjoy going out like that. Like when people invite me, bro, I sometimes I get upset. When people know,
like you know,
you not
on,
know
man.
me.
you know I gotta get up tomorrow.
Right now.
Like,
At
nah,
4:30.
the day we outside, Papa. I'm like, yo, bro, don't do that.
If it starts with the Theo, I'm not going.
Because honestly,
No,
to me, it's like disrespectful to a
I was
point.
just gonna say that
They
disrespectful.
messing with your boundaries. They
Yo,
messing
like,
with your
yeah, you
boundaries.
playing with me, bro. Like, you know, this company is all me.
Yeah.
You know, my success, my pockets, my company. I'm the one responsible for it. And you telling me to be
You're trying to
irresponsible.
deviate me.
Yeah. And it's like, I'm trying to focus. You're not helping me focus.
Yeah.
So sometimes I actually get offended in a nice, funny way.
Yeah,
Would you say that's like, you just hit the nail right on the head. Would you say that's probably one of the things that you've learned as you've grown, right? The fact that you gotta say no to those type of things,
you
right?
got-
In order for you to be
and sometimes
successful,
it's hard.
you gotta say no.
Sometimes it's hard because it might be that shorty you like. You know what I mean? Or it might be that friend group you want to hang out with. And
Might be this
honestly,
dope ass rooftop party
Bro.
in downtown Soho. You
Bro.
want to go to it, whatever.
Sometimes
Yeah.
it's even family.
you know what's the problem?
Sometimes it's even family.
Yeah.
Oh, we going on vacation. Come with us on vacation.
Oh, my family, my family's going on vacation.
We going to
for
New York for 3
years,
weeks.
and I've never been there.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
years,
Right,
bro. They
right.
just send me pictures for facts.
Right.
But that's the grind.
My brother don't even invite me no more. He just knows. He just knows. My mom
That's the
knows.
grind.
Like my immediates know.
Right.
But yeah, bro, it be like that, bro. And yo, you gotta when you get on this level too.
Yeah.
The problem is, like y'all would know, you get invited to stuff you don't even gotta pay for stuff.
Yeah, of course.
Like that's problematic. Open bars,
Yeah, open
problematic.
bars everywhere. Yeah,
Like
everywhere.
open bars, no entry. You even gotta wait online. Like damn.
I've been here for a week.
It
I've been
gets
here-
easier.
yeah.
It gets easier to go out.
I've been here for a week with a tech conference going on, right? Called
Oh
NYC.
yeah, I seen that one. Yep.
And there was literally, I think, 238, 39 side events. At least out of those 238, 39 side events, I would say at least half of them.
And you
were open
networking, so
bars.
you feel inclined
and
to
you
go.
network
Right.
and you got to go. It's like
You got to go to some of them.
You got to work, right? It's
Yeah.
like the same thing. It's like it's disrespectful. What are you asking me to come out at 11 o'clock at night? Like what the hell, bro? I'm a grown ass man.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
no.
the thing. It depends what kind of event it is. If there's a business motive, I'm in there. Like,
Yes,
boom,
I agree.
There you
I agree.
go.
I'm
Well,
not
that's the
saying-
difference too. And
You're
yeah, we
gonna
could go
grind
on
it out. Yeah,
all day
grind it
about
out.
this.
If it's the networking, if it's like,
Yeah.
like sometimes, like the night I met the person who hooked us up with Nike, like that was a dinner.
You
Like,
got-
that was,
right.
That was at 7, 8 p.m. on a Friday. I had work the next day at 5 in the morning.
Where you usually would have been like,
But I
nah,
was
but,
there.
but for the
But
hustle, for the
but it's
grind, you said, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Like some things are reasonable. You know what I
Right.
mean? They make sense.
Right. But if
so
it's just
yeah.
like an influencer
The
party, we're
sacrifice
gonna go
is
hang out.
important.
It's like, what business is gonna really come out of
Right,
this?
right,
You know,
right, right.
it's
Exactly. So yeah, it's stuff like that. Now that I have a podcast too, it depends. Like,
Yeah.
this is I've actually never said this, but it's super interesting. One time I was at a because I went on some business purpose, and I'm in the VIP, right? And then right next to me is Fat Joe, and I'm just like
that's Fat Joe. Right?
I'm like, how do we connect this
You
to
just lean
coffee?
back.
You just lean back. So I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this right now.
How do we connect this to coffee?
Right.
I love that.
And it was just where I went to network, and I was like, I've never been to this type of space to network. This is a weird thing. So I was trying to find an opportunity for coffee, like in terms of like influencers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the podcast wasn't ready yet. And I was like, damn, if the podcast was done, this would have been the moment. For that.
Get him in on the podcast.
Yeah, that's the weirdest opportunity I've ever been to for networking opportunities.
Yeah. It's
let me ask you.
Not my scene.
Yeah.
Not going back.
Say, hey, how you gonna wake up tomorrow? What's it gonna be, a cup of Joe? Because I got good coffee.
I got
That'll get you up, my man.
Not because I've been around a lot of celebrities, and I know when they're in that type of environment,
they don't want to hear that.
They don't really even want to talk.
They're like, all right, let me get 100.
Yeah. He smoke a hookah on the couch. I'm like, I'm not about to interrupt.
Let me ask you
Fat
this,
Joe's
though,
hookah session.
Let me ask you this though. Let's say in hindsight is 2020, right? Let's say you're going back right now. Let's say even the podcast is still not ready. Would you still ask Fat Joe
to be on the podcast? No, because
you want to take that chance.
Because the way I do the podcast and the way I do a lot of business is I have to make it feasible for you. Like the thing is, I'm an entrepreneur. My brand, when I launched it, I tried to pitch it to people.
Yeah.
Nobody got it. Nobody understood it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Once I made a real product and I put it there and I'm like, look, you don't got to imagine no more. Just look at it. Oh, it look good. Oh, it smells good. Oh, it tastes good. Now it's different.
Now
I'm tapping into your senses.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Bro, when I invite people to my podcast, they're like, okay. Then I show them what it looks like. I just email you, put the link. Oh, it sounds good.
Like swimming.
It looks good. There's stuff that goes viral. Like the quality's top notch. Everything's 4K. Like
worth it.
When they look at it, they're already convinced. People hit me up like, I want to be on your podcast.
Yeah.
Like really high level people. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm the type of person like I have to make it real for you.
Yeah.
That's what I learned along the process.
Right.
You could pitch ideas all day. You just talking. You just chatting. There's no action. When people see action and traction, then they want to jump on that. They fuck with it. They rock with it.
It sounds like you're saying calculated. It's all the risks, they're calculated.
Yeah.
You're gonna take it. It's not just being aggressive and taking that risk. You're calculating it as you're going through, saying, hey, I'm not gonna pitch this now. I am gonna go this. I'm not gonna go to this event, but I am gonna go to this.
Yep.
So
And that just comes with time. That just comes with
Right,
time. And learning,
'cause-
that's a skill set that I think we all need to get better at is what is worth me putting my time into? Like, how is it being more intentional, right? As we go through things like this, especially as businessmen, like how do we, because our time is valuable, right? And we complain about that a lot as attorneys all the time, where it's like, we get paid by the hour to do stuff, right? And like me giving my time up for somebody and like not getting paid for it, like
time is everything, bro. Time is everything.
it's kind of tough, it's kind of tough. And we get those questions a lot, you know? So it's building that like calculated risk, I guess understanding, like how do you better calculate that?
Yeah, so to wrap up the saying no piece, saying no is normal to me now, bro. Like time is everything. I care more about time than money sometimes because you can't get time back, but you can get money. Yeah, bro, it's tough. Dating is tough. Like shorties don't get it. Like, bro, I love what I do. Like literally, bro. Like I love
passion.
Bro, I had a relationship in college. Like we broke up because I loved my business more than the girl. I was like, I'm sorry, I can't be on FaceTime for 3 hours. I got this business plan to wrap up. Yeah, I gotta work. I gotta fulfill some orders. Like I just love what I do, bro.
That's awesome.
And I hope one day, you know what I mean, a shorty that understands and that works with the lifestyle comes across and all that, you know what I mean? Friends that get it, and a lot of them do, you know what I mean? But my circle's super small. Saying no is normal, bro, because you just get to a level where it's easy to do so much. You just got to get comfortable with saying no, bro. And you have that vision, bro. Like, you're so responsible for stuff. You got to be on point all the time. Like, when you're on this level, you can't be high all the time. You can't be drinking all the time. Like, people call me all the time. Like, yo, I got this issue. I need you to fix it. Great. I need you to call this person. Connect me here. You got
to be on point.
You got to be on point because you always performing, bro. It's just like being on the court 24/7.
Like an athlete.
Yeah,
I love that.
Always performing, bro.
I love that. Tell them where they can find the coffee, where they can find you,
The podcast.
the podcast.
Plug it up.
Run it down. Just all the plugs.
Drop the list on them because it's crazy.
Let's
The
go.
easiest thing you could do is Google the name Don Carvajal Cafe.
Google it.
Don Carvajal Cafe. My SEO is crazy. It'll all pop up. But the website is doncarvajalcafe.com. You can find us on Amazon, Fresh Direct. Starting in May next month, it'll be in Whole Foods. Soon, you can find us at 75 Main Street in Irvington, New York, which is in Westchester. You can come through on that.
Definitely go check that out.
Yeah, yeah.
That's in May? May?
Yeah, May 2024.
What's the podcast?
The podcast is the Don's Table. You could
Don's
just
Table.
Google that. It's available everywhere: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music. I mean, Apple Podcasts. It's just Amazon Music, all that stuff. It's everywhere. Yeah, just Google Hector Carvajal, Don Carvajal Cafe, the Don's Table. It'll pop up.
From the mountains of Dominican Republic into Whole Foods.
Shout out
Let's
to
get
El
it.
Campo.
Bro. And
Shout out
crazy.
to Campo one more time.
Crazy, bro.
That's awesome.
Crazy. And you know what's funny, when I got there, I was just like, you know, you guys don't have this. They're like, yeah, we know. I was like, yeah, that's the whole pitch. Like,
That's it.
You don't have,
Right.
That's
you
the
don't
whole
have this.
Sell me this
Done.
pen.
Yo, it's the sell me the pen
Right, sell me the
situation,
pen.
bro. Like,
Sell me this
yeah,
pen.
sell me this pen. Like, I don't got that, right? Yeah, you want
Yeah,
that,
all right.
Yep.
That's it.
Then I found out in that presentation, they're like, oh, like 80-90% of our workforce in New York are Dominicans, but we don't have Dominican products to represent that demographic.
Wow.
Boom. You sold yourself
Easy.
the product. Yeah, it's crazy, bro.
That was the pen.
Bro, it's the pen, bro. You'd be surprised. Sometimes you got to analyze, do some market research.
Yeah.
Go to the stores, go to whatever idea you want, like understand it. Get a very well-rounded idea about the product, about the industry, about the insights, about the numbers, about the demographics, the people who consume it. Like, just do the research and make it a point. That's kind of why I never felt like I could fail. I never felt like it was a bad idea because I'm like, yo, this doesn't exist. Like,
Right.
Dominicans in the Campo, we produce great coffee. We drink mad coffee, but we drink other brands that we don't even own. Bustelo's not even owned by Latinos or Hispanics.
Yeah, that's
It's
what I
owned by
heard.
the
That's
James Smucker Peanut Butter Company. You
Yep.
know what I'm saying? So it's like a lot of people have pride for these products and like, oh, Latino, this, like, homie, they're not even owned by us. You don't even know where that's from. So it's like, you know, the pandemic accelerated a lot of people wanting to connect with products a little more, more transparency and stuff like that. So
Appreciate you, bro.
yeah,
Let's
yeah.
do it.
You already
Awesome.
know,
Appreciate
man.
Appreciate you
Doing
coming
big.
out, man.
Thank you for having me.
100%.
Thank you for taking your time.
Oh,
Not saying no to us.
no, of course.
And understanding that we're a calculated risk. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have a hard time saying no because I love stuff like this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
of course.
so,
Of
yeah.
course.
Appreciate that.
you, brother.
You already
Awesome.
know.
Appreciate you coming out again,
Yes,
man.
sir. Thank
Dope,
you for having me.
dope.
Again, like how we always finish it. You know, if there's one person that listens to this and we can help them out, you know, take them to that next level, you know, then we've succeeded in our own right.
And fuck
right?
it. If
And
it
fuck
fails, it
If
fails.
it fails, it fails.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
Hey, that's it.
Let's go.